Claudia Wolf, the embodiment of evil, some would say. That is, if you took the side the game wants you to take. The battle between good and evil has been a debate based purely on the idea of perception. We tend to deem those who are good as people with goals that benefit themselves or society in a positive manner. The people we deem evil are people with goals that represent the same as the good, but they also tend to harm or sacrifice others for the better of the world in a much broader sense. I'm not here to cause debate on good versus evil though. Perception is the key word in this video as we look at the antagonist of Silent Hill 3, Claudia Wolf. In normal fashion, let's look at Claudia's background and appearance before diving into key scenes. Her first name Claudia is one of Latin origin, with some sources stating it means lame, crippled, or limping. Other sources state that instead the name's meaning is simply unknown. For this video, I will entertain the crippled meaning of the name. Her last name Wolf is a surname that was popular during the medieval times in Germany. While there is no interesting meaning behind her last name, if we put her first and last name together, it makes crippled wolf depending on your own personal take of her first name. This makes her as a character quite interesting. In other words, Claudia could be portrayed as a damaged but loyal person. She's loyal to her friends and her faith above anything else, and whether she is the lone wolf in a sea of sheep, she stands true to her values. This is the representation I will accept for her, but feel free to come up with your own. Appearance-wise, Claudia is a fair skin, perhaps showing that she doesn't get out much. She wears a long-sleeved shirt that blends neatly into her dress of the same black color. One interesting point is that Claudia does not wear shoes. In accordance with the Silent Hill wiki, Ideological also did not wear shoes, meaning that this could be part of the Order's priestess tradition. While not noticeable all the time, Claudia also has no eyebrows. This was done on purpose to give Claudia a strange aura about her, so every time the player encountered her, something always would seem off. Claudia was born and raised in Silent Hill alongside her father Leonard Wolf. Details on her mother for some reason are unknown, but much like Alessa, Claudia's life growing up was one of horrors. Though she became a believer of the cult's faith as Leonard had wanted her to, she was physically beaten and emotionally abused until that happened. Abuse does not enable a child to function properly as they grow older, and to no surprise, Claudia would bear a seething amount of hatred towards her father because of her childhood. Perhaps unknown to some players out there, Claudia was raised alongside of Alessa Gillespie before things turned sinister. It is theorized that she went to the same Midwich elementary school as Alessa did. Claudia was just a few grades lower than her, however. While not related, Claudia viewed Alessa as a sister and they spent time together often. This was until Alessa was burned by Dahlia. Claudia ended up with a grudge towards Harry Mason after Alessa's reincarnation of herself as Cheryl. Claudia believed that Harry was the one that took Alessa, her only friend, away from her during her childhood, though we all know that it was in fact Dahlia's doing. Therefore, we see in Silent Hill 3 that one of Claudia's goals is to exact revenge on a man she believed took away her childhood friend. Now, with the relevant information to help you with your perception of Claudia, let's take a look at the scenes.
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
They've come to witness the beginning. The rebirth of paradise, despoiled by mankind.
What are you talking about?
Don't you know? Your power is needed.
How should I know?
I am Claudia.
So what?
Remember me, and your true self as well. Also, that which you must become. The one who will lead us to paradise with blood-stained hands.
Claudia, right? Did you do all this?
was the hand of God.
And the first time we meet Claudia, she alludes to her one true goal, which is achieving paradise to better the world. Not to mention, she drops slight hints into who Heather truly is, which first-time players won't put together until later in the game. Also, take note of the other world Heather encountered before running into Claudia here. This means Claudia can bring the other world to places outside of Silent Hill, such as a shopping mall if it means accomplishing her goals.
I don't get it. What does she want me to remember?
Heather. That's what you're called now, isn't it?
And who are you?
The name's Vincent. Don't forget it, okay? I'm on your side.
So you say. But how do I know you're not with her?
Her? You mean Claudia? Please don't lump me together with her. She was totally brainwashed by that crazy old hag.
Did you take notice of Vincent's reaction when Heather mentioned Claudia? His physical expression shows strong disdain for Claudia, but for what reason? Notice how he immediately comments that Claudia was brainwashed by that crazy old hag. The hag he is referring to is Dahlia Gillespie. Just like in Silent Hill 1, Claudia is taking up the job that Dahlia failed to do, which is to summon God to bring about paradise. Vincent's next line also confirms it is indeed Alessa's mother, Dahlia, he is referring to.
Well, I guess crazy old hag is a bit harsh. She is your mother, after all.
My mother? What do you mean? Did you do this?
You're late.
But why? Why?
Revenge for 17 years ago, for one thing. If not for him, our dream would have come true. And then he took you away from us.
As I had previously mentioned in the background, getting revenge on Harry for taking away Alessa was an action Claudia deemed necessary if she was going to continue with her plans for paradise. If Harry was still alive and knew Claudia had her grasp on Heather, we know that Harry wouldn't be having that. But by killing him, that is one less obstacle in her way.
I'll get you for this!
There is another reason. To fill your heart with hatred. It must be this way. One day you'll understand why.
No, I'll never understand!
You must try to remember me, and your true self as well. You will birth a god, and build an eternal paradise.
Once more we hear this statement of paradise from Claudia. What is interesting about this paradise is it is nothing more than a concept or a dream. Much like faith geared towards an existence outside of this life, such as heaven, paradise is the occult's version of that heaven. The vision of paradise, however, varies from person to person, and the way that Claudia envisions it is different from Dahlia or Leonard. There is nothing wrong with having one's belief in this sort of thing, though, as often believing in something is far more beneficial to a person than believing in nothing.
He's the one who killed your father. I merely gave the order. So, what will you do? I'll be waiting where all begins. In the town of Silent Hill.
Hello?
Claudia.
No, I'm not.
Don't lie to me, Claudia. You're always trying to run from your responsibilities. Have you come to apologize? Or maybe you still don't realize how foolish you've been. The salvation of all mankind. Ah, what a ridiculous dream.
As Leonard rambles on to Claudia, who he doesn't know is Heather, take note of how condescending his tone is to her. He has stated Claudia always ran away from her responsibilities, showing us a little more insight into who she was when she was younger. But what should stand out more than anything is this odd perception of Claudia's goals in the cult versus her father's. Paradise, as stated in the last scene, is subjective. Yet why is Leonard so cruel to his own daughter, the daughter he forced into the occult and its beliefs?
Just listen to me for a second.
I've heard enough from you already. How did you turn out this way? Where did I go wrong?
Listen to me already. I'm not Claudia.
You're not Claudia.
My name is Heather.
Heather.
Who are you?
Leonard Wolf. I'm sorry. I thought you were my daughter.
Claudia is your daughter?
Oh, so you know her, do you? Are you one of her followers?
No, never. When I find her,
I can feel the hatred.
What?
Behind your words. The anger. You plan to kill her, don't you?
I'm sorry, but she killed my father.
She's a fool. But she's still my daughter. I was going to forgive her if she changed her ways. But I see it's too late.
1 minute he is praising her for doing things his way, and in the next moment he is abusive. A common behavior pattern displayed in the abuser of a relationship to hook their victim in their sick loop.
Heather, will you help me?
Help you?
I'm locked up in here, and I must stop Claudia.
Where are you now?
I'm not sure myself, but the door is at the end of the hall on the second floor. I think I can be of help to you. I have a seal. Please.
A seal?
Heather?
Yeah? Leonard, where are you?
Thank you. Now I can finally leave here. Now Claudia's ridiculous dream is over. Well, I guess it's time to dispose of her. The salvation of all mankind. Ha!
Once again, we hear this statement. It's like Leonard cannot let go of it. I would not be surprised that as Claudia grew up, her father would bash her ideals into oblivion, causing her to suppress them in her youth. This suppression then in turn leads us to the Claudia of today, a person much like her father in this regard, a person who adamantly follows their beliefs and actions alone.
Why must we reward even the unbelievers?
What are you talking about?
About our plans, of course. It's true that God is merciful, but first, one must be chosen. Only we, who hearken to the voice of God, will be given the keys to paradise. Don't you think so, Mother?
Yeah, sure.
Was that wrong?
It's your fault that he...
Oh, but surely it's a good thing. It means he was one of God's beloved, no?
Those who mock God will never receive salvation. You'll go to hell, Vincent. You'll never feel the joy of God's everlasting paradise.
This way of speech should ring a bell to you. Doesn't this sound exactly like Leonard in a way? Claudia states that due to the death of Leonard, Vincent will never be permitted into paradise. Obviously, the killing of Harry Mason was important for paradise, but any other deaths not permitted by Claudia are not.
And you think God is going to save you? Ha!
What do you know anyway?
I know about the pleasures of this world. And I want to find my happiness while I'm still here. You hated your father, didn't you? I saw the way he hit you, and kicked you, and made you cry. The memory of his cruelty is forever burned into my mind.
Yes, yes, and that's why we need God.
What you call faith is nothing more than a child crying out for love. That's why you're all alone.
Vincent brings up Claudia's past, which is surprising as she takes it very well. In a way, we do see Leonard's overbearing personality ingrained into Claudia, but much like my talk earlier, we also see that Claudia's faith in the cult is what she holds on to the most. Though it was forced upon her and her best friend was ripped away from her, her faith in the cult served as a crutch for her to live another day and sleep another night. This belief in something is far more powerful than the belief in nothing, even if it is just to get by.
You don't understand. None of you do. I hired you to find the girl, and you performed serviceably. What is it now?
You lied to me about Heather, lady. I don't like being used.
Lie? What lie?
That Heather was kidnapped from
But it's true. She was originally one of us. That man, Harry Mason, stole her away and kept her hidden from us.
Remember the talk of perception at the start of the video? In accordance with what Claudia knows, whether it's true or false, is her truth. Harry took Alessa away from her when they were young, and Claudia never forgave Harry for that. I am not justifying killing a person because they took someone away, but from Claudia's perspective, some sacrifices for the greater good must happen for her plans to be successful.
you. Yeah, but she says she was happy.
She was brainwashed by him, deceived, because her true self had not yet awoken. She carries God within her. But when Alessa, Mother of God, truly awakens,
Yeah? What's gonna happen?
she will usher in the eternal paradise.
What kind of place is that?
A place with no pain, no hunger, no sickness, no old age. There will be no greed or war, and all will live by God's grace alone.
No this, no that, no nothing. A paradise? For castrated sheep, maybe. Sounds pretty boring.
I pity you. You still don't understand.
To us as a third party in all of this, it is normal for us to agree with Douglas on this. A place like paradise where everything is perfect seems outright impossible. But in the context of Silent Hill, and Claudia's abilities herself, a place like that doesn't seem impossible, but more so just unreasonable at best.
You're going to kill me? Is it really so easy for you?
I've done it before.
Then I truly do pity you.
This door is the gate which leads to the road to paradise. Embrace the bosom of the Holy Mother. Admit your sins and be forgiven. Eternal tranquility can be yours. Upon the door before entering the church reads those lines. Those lines are significant as they sum up the meaning of the cult within a few lines. Also, the statement of the Holy Mother is something we also hear in Silent Hill 4, which, by the way, check out my Walter analysis if you haven't done so.
How did you get here? It was Vincent, wasn't it? He led you here. When will he cease his meddling? But it's just as well. Luring you here also serves my purposes.
Checkmate.
Not yet. The time is not yet at hand. The time when all will be forgiven their sins. When the paradise we have long dreamed for will arrive. After the judgment and atonement, an eternity of bliss. Oh, Alessa, the world you wanted is nearly here.
That's not what I want.
Not you. Alessa, your true self.
But I am Alessa. My little Claudia, my dear sweet sister.
Alessa, is it you? Oh, how I've missed you.
I don't need another world. It's fine the way it is.
But you said it yourself. The world must first be cleansed with fire.
But that's not what I want now.
Alessa, don't you want happiness? Have you become blind to all the hopeless suffering in the world?
Many of us have seen this train of thought in antagonists across different mediums of work. The bad guy wants to purge the world of both bad and good and recreate it. But what separates Claudia from those type of antagonists is her reasoning behind it. It is not out of hatred or remorse from her past, but more so out of the faith the cult provided her with. With all the supernatural powers that happen in Silent Hill, her notion for a paradise, once again, does not seem impossible. She is aware of the way she is going about doing it may not be conventional, but her hopes are once paradise has arrived, just like the door before Heather, she will be forgiven.
We all need God's salvation.
Listen, suffering is a fact of life. Either you learn how to deal with that or you go under. You can stay in your own little dream world, but you can't keep hurting other people. Besides, I'll never forgive you for hurting my father.
I wish only for the salvation of mankind. But for that to happen, the world must first be remade. And for that, we need God.
You self-righteous witch! No one asked you to help!
It's growing within you. You despise me, don't you?
You're damn right I do!
That's good.
Hiya, Heather.
You show up everywhere, don't you?
make me sound like some kind of unwanted pest.
Well, who are you anyway?
Haven't you realized that yet?
Yeah, you're on Claudia's side.
I told you not to put me in the same category as that mad woman.
Well, you're pretty loony yourself.
It's true. We believe in the same God. But I'm quite sane.
So why did you help me out then? Was that also part of trying to resurrect God?
It's not uncommon for people to worship the same God and still disagree.
Interesting line from Vincent here. He is completely aware of his thoughts and beliefs versus that of Claudia's, which is also why he despises her actions. Vincent, in a way, is set in between Heather and Claudia as sort of a middle ground, so to speak. He plays both sides in hope it benefits him and would ideally want both out of his way. But the point in this line is perception.
God? Are you sure you don't mean devil?
Whichever you like. Do you know about what happened here 17 years ago? You've been here a long time. You must have heard some details.
In this scene, by playing the cassette tape, we get a small summary of the events of the original Silent Hill. But the ending part of it is far more interesting. It is stated that Claudia has found Alessa, and of how one of the speakers fears Claudia herself. I wanted to mention this because of the statement in concerns to Claudia's sight. We know of Alessa's powers, but not of Claudia's. Not much is known about her sight, but perhaps its ability for her to see into the past or present to some degree. Maybe even ties to her ability of seeing the other world in the places she chooses by visualizing it. Claudia's diary also gives us more insight into who she truly is with each entry. She states that she knows that Alessa was born anew, but she cannot locate her to help create paradise. She also mentions finding a way to summon God to bring about paradise, but states that is very cruel. Meaning, Claudia does feel empathy. To end her diary notes, she states how she is powerless to events involving child exploitation and slavery. She mentions that she can no longer be a bystander. This is extremely important as it means Claudia's attachment to her faith is not for selfish eternal power, but instead to strip humanity of its bad so there is only a world of good, a place without suffering and hardship. With her also still holding on to the card she got from Alessa on her 6th birthday, also means not a day has gone by that she hasn't long for the return of her friend.
When did you stop believing in God? God lives. Just look around you.
But I do believe in her. In my own way. I fear her, and I adore her. But I haven't lost my mind like you. You think that this is the work of God? Isn't this all nothing more than your own personal nightmare? Just like Alessa 17 years ago? If this really is the work of God, then I'd say she has lousy taste.
You mock God? Traitor. You will go to hell.
Not that again! Who do you think you are, claiming to know God's will?
Go home, Vincent.
Home. This church is my home. I built it with my power. The power of money that you view with such scorn. Although I admit that this atrocious scenery is all yours.
If you continue to get in my way,
Did you kill me? Well. Well. The guest of honor has arrived. Let's get this party started. Heather, go ahead and kill this crazy bitch. This demon who claims to speak for God. The time has come. You can kill her now.
You'll go to hell!
What did you do?
Nothing important.
It's understandable in a way for Claudia to have killed Harry, but to have killed Vincent because of his outbursts appears not only to get him out of her way for good, but to also show Heather that she means business. Her lack of remorse or even emotion when asked about this action, though, is quite alarming.
You're not going to run? I guess this is the end.
No, the beginning. As Vincent said, the time has come. Alessa, I'm saddened that you didn't agree to this on your own. But I thank you for nurturing God with all the hate in your heart. It's time for mankind to be released from the shackles of sin which bind them.
But a God born from hatred can never create a perfect paradise.
Happy people can be so cruel. Is it so hard to believe that sympathy could be born out of pain and suffering? Why do you reject God's mercy? Why do you cling to this corrupt world? You know that only God can save us.
Claudia's faith in the cult and of the eventual paradise is so strong it overrides any normal train of thought. Her goal is to make two wrongs into a right. By creating a God from hatred, the world will be reborn into a place void of it.
And save you too? Happy ending? I'd rather go to hell.
No, I don't expect to be saved. And that's fine. Alessa, my dearest. For the pain that I've caused you, I deserve no mercy. Even if it was to save mankind. It was too deep a sin. It was hubris for me to try to hasten the day of her arrival. Sacrifices were made. And those are my sins.
Sacrifices were made, and those are my sins. That line must be one of my most favorite from Claudia. Unlike a regular villain who wishes for a new world or world domination with them as the god of that world, Claudia shows a high level of awareness in herself and her actions. She understands, yes, what I have done is wrong, and I too shouldn't be free of judgment. But in the end, I am willing to give up everything if it means a better life for everyone after.
Looks like God didn't make it.
Stop! God is...
Claudia!
Alessa, you cannot kill God. I will birth God.
In her last-ditch effort to carry out her plan, Claudia ended up consuming the fetus Heather had puked up. She knows the failure of this plan means her dream of paradise will never happen, and so she willingly sacrifices herself in hopes of achieving her one true goal. Unfortunately for Claudia, she was not meant to birth God. and dies along with her hopes and dreams, as Valtiel pulls her down into the basement below. A fitting end for a monster in human form, some would say, but to me, this is more so a sad and twisted one. Claudia, due to her upbringing, was forced into the cult and its ideals. The psychological damage she endured from her father embedded itself into her as she grew older, just in a different way. To those born without power, without knowledge, without abuse, the thought of this perfect paradise is but a dream. But as the wolf we know her as, Claudia sat on the edge of that cliff, gazing into the horizon, searching for a better life. Indeed, she cannot predict that if God was created, how that outcome would be, but with her undying resolve, she could at least imagine a world without suffering. I'm not saying her actions to accomplish this is justified, but by stripping away your perception of what is wrong and right for the greater of humanity, can at times be more beneficial than harmful. Claudia Wolf is an antagonist that is so well fleshed out that at times it's hard to say she is truly corrupt in her ways. As a woman who held onto her faith until the very end, shows the commitment she had to accomplish her goals of a better world. While none of us can evade our inevitable death, believing in something can be far more powerful than believing in nothing, especially when that is all that keeps you alive or insane.